Welcome back to Who's to Know. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a 3-ingredient ganache, and I don't have a double boiler, so I'm going to show you how to do it if you don't have a double boiler, which I'm betting that you don't. So let's get started. How I like to make my ganache is instead of having a traditional double boiler, what I'm going to use is I'm just going to use this little saucepan. And what I'm going to do is take this Pyrex and put it on there just like that. So I'm going to show you how to do that. The first step though is to fill this little saucepan with some just regular tap water. So I have got my saucepan that's got water in it, and it doesn't need to be, it's a little bit less than half full, and that's fine. So I'm actually going to use this front part so it's easier to see, and I've got a small element here, so I'm going to just turn that small element on only. And I'll go ahead and turn that on to high. The idea of a double boiler is pretty simple. For things like melting chocolate, you don't want direct heat on the chocolate because it's going to scald it. So the idea of a double boiler is the heat from the steam is what's going to melt the chocolate and not burn it. So once it starts boiling, then we can probably turn it down to about halfway. Meanwhile, we can get our recipe ready. You can see here we're going to be using semi-sweet chocolate chips. It says to use good ones. I just use the Kroger brand, that's fine. And we're going to use 8 ounces of that, which is 1 cup, and we're going to use a half a cup of heavy cream. This recipe is from Ian Garten, and she has got some really good recipes. This recipe actually calls to add 1 teaspoon of instant coffee granulars, but I don't have those. So what I do instead is I use vanilla extract. Okay, now that my water is boiling, I'm going to turn it down to simmer. And this is the instruction that Ina gives. She says, cook chips, cream in top of a double boiler over simmering water until smooth and warm, stirring occasionally. So that's just what we're going to do. This has gotten down to more of a simmer. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and put the glass bowl over there. And then the steam is going to start heating the bottom of that. So I've got my 1 cup of chocolate chips here, semi-sweet, and then I've got my half cup of heavy cream. The other key utensil you will need is a very good spatula. And now I'm just going to start doing this. Oh. And because I'm not using the right setup, it is a little tricky, but I wanted to do this to show that it is still possible to do this even if you don't have a double boiler. What I want to avoid, though, is in my situation, getting this bowl all the way into that, getting the bowl all the way into the saucepan, because that steam could build up and then it could create some pressure. So I'm just going to be careful to leave it a little cockeyed just like this so that the steam is actually able to get out. So it won't look like it's doing anything, but then all of a sudden it'll really start to melt. Like I said, this is a little bit more precarious than it would be in a regular situation with a double boiler, because it would be a top that fits perfectly into the pan. But I don't use a double boiler enough to justify getting one. So that's why I have kind of found a workaround to where that I can still make it and enjoy it. Something else that would work, and actually what I initially looked for when going to make this recipe, is a small stainless steel bowl, but I couldn't find one that I really like. So that would also work too. A stainless steel bowl would work. But I just have this, and probably something with more of a bowl shape to the bottom would be better. But this is what I've got. I've got this glass Pyrex dish, so that's what I'm using. And you can see it's chocolate's starting to melt. This ganache, once it's made, can be kept in the fridge for up to a couple of weeks. It stays good that long, as long as you keep it in an airtight container. The reason I like doing it actually in this Pyrex is because what I'll do is we store it in this, and then when I want to heat it back up, because it will solidify, just put it in the microwave and nuke it for a couple seconds. You want to keep stirring, and you want to keep it on the simmering water until you see kind of all the little granulars of chocolate go away, until it's very, very smooth. One thing I like to do is just dip graham crackers in the ganache, or I also have some strawberries that you'll see that I'll actually dip in the ganache and then let them get hardened, and that's very, very easy. It's not nearly as hard as it sounds, but it is a nice kind of fancy treat to have around. So it's really starting to look nice and smooth. Really happy with how it's turned out. So you can see it's quite smooth now, and so we're ready to take it off the heat. Okay, now that it's ready to come off the heat, we've turned that off. The last thing we're gonna do is we're going to add in 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Or not quite 1 teaspoon, we're a little short. So we'll just go ahead and mix that in, and that'll give it a nice flavor. Okay. Now that we've got our ganache, what I want to show is now dipping some strawberries into the ganache and then letting them sit here and dry. So we'll just take the strawberry and hold it by its stem here and just, I guess, try to, twirl it in there and get as much as you can. And then this is just parchment paper I have here. I don't have wax paper, that probably would be better. So again, I'll just kind of take it by the stem, twirl it in there. You get the idea. Just set it like that. Also, like I mentioned, one of my other favorite things to do with it is just you sit this around a table and just give graham crackers to people, and then just eat it just like that. If you wanted to speed this process up for the ganache to cool, what you could do is if you had a flat surface in your freezer, you could transfer them there, and that way the ganache would set up quicker. And then from here, you just have this ganache is ready to go. If you put it back in the fridge, you will need to microwave it a little bit because it will set up, so you'll need to microwave it to get it liquid again, but then it's just ready to go. So that's how you make chocolate ganache if you don't have a double boiler, and say maybe you have people coming over for dinner last minute and you've got graham crackers, you've got the sweet chocolate chips, and maybe you've got some heavy cream, or in this case I actually use whipping cream, but either one, it's pretty much the same. So that's how we make chocolate ganache. I hope you enjoyed it, and this is a nice dessert to have. It's not too hard to make. It only takes about 5 to 7 minutes. And then after that, you have ganache, and you can heat it up and dip all sorts of things in it, fruit and a graham cracker, and it's really tasty. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.